installment of Hot Stoves. 3 episodes of this show left before opening day. Yes, some would say that's 3 too many, but that's the landscape we're in with Harold Reynolds.
Opening day. We're right around the corner, man.
Finally, right?
I turned on the TV last night, and I was watching the Dodgers and the Angels in Anaheim in the big league park.
Yeah.
And you know what hit me?
What?
It was like, this is the first time we've started a season with fans without any holding them back at all. Remember last year it was, well, maybe you can have 7,000, maybe 10,000.
Yeah, first time in a couple years.
Yeah.
It does. It feels normal, feels great. Optimism in at least 26 of the 30. I mean, there's a few that, go get them next year. We know.
Oh, yeah.
But there's even optimism in those places because opening day. Yeah, makes everybody feel good.
I was on a team that lost 100, and I thought we were going to win it all.
Which team was that?
I don't know, one of the teams.
One of the pre-Frenchie teams?
Yeah.
Before Frenchie got up there?
Poor old Frenchie.
Yeah. So, hey, Mark Feinsand is with us today. Lauren Shahadi with us as well. Matt Orzo is in for Keith Costas, who's done for the year. He's checked out already.
He's done?
And we have a lot to get to today, including some wheeling and dealing from the weekend. With that, let's say good morning to Mark Feinsand, who's in leading the league with us today. We knew Sean Manaea was headed somewhere. We know Frankie Montas will be headed somewhere. But the lefty Manaea goes to San Diego. Tell us about the deal and good morning.
Good morning, guys. Sean Manaea goes to the Padres to strengthen what was already a pretty good rotation, joining Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove, Blake Snell, Mike Clevenger. They've got some more depth in there with Nick Martinez and Chris Paddock. You see right here, they get the number 11 and 25 prospects from San Diego. And, I'll tell you, A.J. Preller does a really good job of adding talent to that Padres roster and never touching his top 5 or 6 prospects. Once again, does it again, trades out a couple guys outside of his top 10. The Padres know they've got a big hill to climb in catching the Dodgers and the Giants were a big surprise last year. So, strengthening that rotation, I thought very nice move for the Padres.
Great move.
Do we know who else was in on this? I mean, who are the other teams that might have been in on Manaea? Because I'm sure there were a number of suitors making phone calls.
We heard about all the usual suspects, and then you look at the return and think that any team that really wanted him probably could have upped that package of prospects. The Yankees were a team we kept hearing about. They seem content with their rotation depth right now. So I think the Padres were probably just the most aggressive in going after him. But I think this is a credit to A.J. Preller and the farm system he's built, that he hasn't had to touch those top prospects, and he's still able to acquire a guy like Manaea for guys in the middle area of his prospect list.
Yeah, so we see some, Sean Manaea highlight rip. You kind of see it there, the green glove, which apparently in his Padres debut, he didn't have to travel very far to get from A's camp to Padres camp, of course. He had the green guante with him. And I don't know, playing against his old team here.
Tell you what, it looks good.
Somebody's got to get him.
Candelaria.
Somebody's got to get him the brown glove, right?
No, use the green. I'd get him a brown glove. Hey, look, though, Bob Melvin is big on these moves that are happening with the Padres. I think that's huge. If I'm going to ask anybody about the pitchers that I might acquire between the 2 guys that were there, because I'm sure they could have made the same package for the other guy.
Right.
Bob Melvin picked this.
This is the one he wanted, you're saying.
Yes.
I would agree with that. I mean, they wouldn't have done this if Melvin said, do not go get him.
No doubt.
Right? I mean, he knows Sean Manaea better than anybody in San Diego, that's for sure.
And I think on the other side, the A's trusted Bob Melvin enough to allow him to go to the Padres to manage, that they were looking at their prospects and saying, we feel like this is a good deal. They trusted it enough that the package was legit on both sides.
Harold, one thing I would throw in there in terms of Manaea versus Montas. Montas has another year of control. Manaea's a free agent after this year, so I think it probably would have cost more to bring in Montas, given that he's got 2 years left.
Good point. And, he's still out there.
Point.
Frankie Montas.
I thought you were the soundboard for a second there. I was locked in on talking to Matt, and I was like, what?
Frankie Montas could be yours for the asking, and so could Justin Upton, with somebody else paying the freight. This came as a rather big surprise to a lot of people over the weekend. The Angels DFAing the veteran outfielder with $28 million left on the price tag. Tell us about this move, Mark.
Yeah, a bit surprising, although maybe not so surprising. This is the 3rd time the Angels have DFA'd a veteran player owed a lot of money. Or I guess it's the third time they've paid. They did it with Pujols last May. They paid Josh Hamilton about $26 million when the Rangers DFA'd him, and now Justin Upton is going to make $28 million this year, theoretically, to play for somebody else, with the Angels paying the freight. So, it's not quite the Pablo Sandoval deal with the Red Sox, where they let him go with over $48 million left on his deal. But Angels GM Perry Minasian said this situation was more about believing that Joe Adell and Brandon Marsh were ready to man those corner outfield spots than Upton himself. But that said, Upton missed a lot of games. He missed 73 games last year, 99 games in 2019, and he hasn't produced the way that he did in the years prior to that, a 713 OPS since the beginning of 2019. So the production wasn't there. The young players were off to a good start in spring, and they were feeling good about them. So rather than waste the roster spot on a guy they weren't planning on playing, they decided to let him walk.
Well, our theme since we've got back from the lockout has been the DH in both leagues. And I think if Justin Upton, where they had Pujols and they had a lot of other guys that were trying to fit in that DH spot in Anaheim, really didn't get him off his feet, so to speak. When you're scuffling, you need that little break. That position wasn't there. I think he's going to have a lot of suitors where he can still play a little bit of outfield, but he'll be able to take that time to DH and maybe get his feet on the ground and be able to get off. So he's going to have some opportunity.
Hey, he may even stay in the division. Look, I mean, Seattle's done a lot to add to their offensive profile, but what they lacked last year was a big thumping middle-of-the-order bat, the kind of guy that Justin Upton is.
A right-handed bat for the Astros?
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, in and out of the DH spot.
Correa.
I mean, it's pretty clear that he's going to work someplace, but I think your point is well taken, Mark, that they like Joe Adell. They like Brandon Marsh a lot. They're the future, and the Angels are committing to those guys. And I don't know that this wouldn't even have been the case. Justin Upton had a big spring, so there were a lot of people up and, look at the spring numbers. He's had big spring numbers in the past, and spring numbers are spring numbers, especially in the Cactus League. Let's, slow the roll on how dare you trade a guy who had a big spring.
No,
they had their mind made up before that.
Yeah,
right?
This is one of those deals that this was done in the winter.
I think so, too.
It was done last season.
And I think the reason it wasn't done as a trade were two things. The lockout, so there's nothing going on. And also, like, spring training, they probably have been trying to make a deal for him for a while. But that $28 million price tag just made it impossible to do that.
Well, I will say this with the Angels, that Artie gives them an opportunity all the time. Even in a situation like this, he ate Pujols money. He's eating Upton money. He ate Hamilton money. I can't remember the left-hander that came to from Texas.
C.J. Wilson.
Wilson. If he's at the end of the leash, he's not afraid to eat that and say, let's go on.
That's true.
But it is time for that team to give some return to Artie. They got to get in the postseason.
One of the people who was affected by this, Mike Trout and Justin Upton are very close. And per Rhett Bollinger, who covers the Angels on MLB.com, Trout on Upton being DFA'd. Obviously, Justin was my guy. I played with him since he's been here. I got to be good friends with him. It's tough. I think he had a good spring. It is what it is. You've got some young guys coming up, and they had a good spring as well. But it's tough. And, I think that says it pretty well, as a matter of fact. So for you now, I mean, productivity from the right side of the plate. There are other guys that can pick up the slack. Rendon will be resurgent. But there's more pressure on Mike Trout this year than ever.
Well, not even pressure. I just think we've forgotten, pushed him aside, how great Mike Trout is. He had an injury. And the question is, will he come back? And so I say, yeah, and I just want to give him video evidence. Let's go back to last year when he was doing everything he always does, and he blew out a calf. And I thought with the team falling out of it was more why it extended into the winter and not getting him back maybe sooner and pushing it. But here he is in the spring. He's come back. He's moving around good. This is all I want to see. Can the man move? If Mike Trout can move, the numbers will be there. And that's the biggest thing. So watching him this spring, I want to see, going to drive the ball. Oh, yeah, that swing looks the same. Nothing wrong with that. That's Mike Trout. And then being able to drive the ball the other way, get runs, drive runs in. This is what Mike Trout does. But I wanted to see him on the bases. And this ball Justin Upton hits, here's Mike going from second to home. And it's just a matter of him being comfortable. But the ground balls are always the key with Trout. He's a bang-bang to first base guy, maximum effort. Spring training, you don't want him running so hard. His last night's game, get down the line. Just get down the line.
Yeah.
And that tells me all I need to know.
Yeah.
Will Mike Trout be healthy? Yes. Is he healthy we'll be talking about him and to Ohtani and all the other guys at the top for MVP.
Here's my comp.
Bottom line.
For if you're in the betting futures market or even if you're just a fan trying to predict performance, rare is the opportunity where, because of some strange set of circumstances in the world, Apple stock is repressed. Buy it, right? If ever there's going to be a time in Mike Trout's career where his stock value would be a little repressed, it's coming off an injury where he missed essentially a whole year, which he did. He's going to be great.
Are you buying, Mark?
He's going to be great. Buy Mike Trout.
Yeah, I think I'm buying Mike Trout stock. I was amazed that we had talked about the Angels this long without mentioning Shohei Ohtani. Thanks for saving us there, Harold.
Yeah, but you know what we have to mention now is I wonder if, since Justin Upton is on the move, if he's taken his practical joke kit with him, because he and Mike Trout, of course, teamed up on a good one at Harold's expense a number of spring trainings ago.
Yeah.
So, more shocking, that or the MVP? When you see the whoa. Oh, got him. Albert, that's messed up, man. That boy Jay. That ain't even right. Oh my gosh, I got a bad hip. You saw how quick I moved though.
You went right to Justin. You knew exactly who did that.
Oh, no doubt. Those two were tight as thieves.
I got a bad hip, too. That's messed up.
See, and Mike is so nice. I was like, he didn't do that to me. Justin did. He dogged me out.
Hey, let's move on, Mark.
Yeah.
Something else for you. And there's going to be an interview that will run on the Yes Network today at noon Eastern Time on the Center Stage program. Michael Kay interviews Carlos Beltran, and some really revealing admissions from the longtime star and a guy who was in the middle of the Astros controversy a number of years ago. We have some quotes from the interview that'll run later on today, talking about the sign stealing scandal. We all did what we did. Looking back, we were wrong. Beltran went on to say, a lot of people always ask me why you didn't stop it. My answer is I didn't stop it the same way no one stopped it. This is working for us. Why are you going to stop something that's working for you? So if the organization would have said something to us, we would have stopped it for sure. I wish I would have asked more questions about what we were doing. I wish the organization would have said to us, hey, man, what you guys are doing, we need to stop this. I think that the first line in this admission was the most interesting to me, where, he says, look, we're winning. And you and I had said this on this program.
Yeah.
The reason why nobody stopped it internally is because it was working, and they were drunk with winning, and it hit everybody.
Right.
They thought they were getting away with something. And you kind of obscure the line ethically in your own mind when something's working, and it's okay. It's a very human thing that happened to all those guys in that clubhouse.
Well, you start off with stealing signs is part of the game. It just is. But where they went to is what made it so wrong, to the extent they did with the electronics and everything else. But when you're in the middle of it and it's working, you think, okay, this is cool. We're beating everybody. We're tricking them.
Yeah.
It's just not right.
Mark, I'll ask you this because you've covered this story. You covered Carlos Beltran for years from his time in New York as a Met and a Yankee. Is this a part of a rehabilitation tour for him? Because remember, he was named Mets manager at one point before all this poop hit the fan. Is he trying to get back into the game?
Well, the first step is he's going to be broadcasting for the Yes Network this year. It's a good step for him to come out and talk about it. I would imagine this will be the only time he talks about it, said what he said. And, I think Carlos Beltran is a good thing for Major League Baseball to be involved with this game. And, hopefully down the line he gets another chance to get a managerial job.
All right, from a guy who's been in the game for a long time to two young players who got good news, and they're both AL Rookie of the Year candidates. Both Spencer Torkelson and Bobby Witt will break camp with the big league teams. No surprises here, though. Am I right about that?
Yeah, no surprises, except that, we've been talking about the service time situation for months with the lockout, and it seems that the rules that are put into place in the new CBA are working, where teams aren't going to try to hold their, potentially hold guys out for a few weeks and try to manipulate that service time. You're seeing guys like Torkelson and Witt. Riley Green was on track to make the Tigers as well before he got hurt. Adley Rutschman, same thing in Baltimore. You had him penciled in as the opening day catcher till he got hurt. So I think seeing the better young players in the game break camp, start as opening day players is a great thing for the game, and it seems like the negotiations and everything that went into the CBA on that issue at least so far, seems to be working.
And both players, Torkelson particularly, pretty happy with the news, and he had this to say about learning that he had made the big league roster.
And that's when I was like, all right. And then he said, you're on the team opening day, and kind of hit me.
Compared to the feeling you had at the end of last camp last year, and to have this feeling now, I mean, my God, it's
night and day.
Yeah.
Night and day for sure. I worked really hard to get here, and I'm, really happy to be in this position. And I'm ready to go.
It's an amazing story for Spencer, who was undrafted out of high school, went to Arizona State, becomes the #1 pick in the country. And I know they tried to push this. He can play second, he can play third. And I was like, no, he's a first baseman. Let's just be real. And I'm glad the Tigers just finally said, no, you're playing first base because you can hit. That's why we picked you first in the country. And I thought the best part of this story was Miguel Cabrera handing the glove over and saying, it's time for you, young man. It's your time to play. And it always helps when a young guy breaks into a big club that the older veteran guys say it's your time. And it just makes the transition that much easier. But this whole, he's going to play second, he's going to play third, that narrative, please. I'm glad the Tigers fought through the garbage, realized this guy's going to play first. He could be their first baseman for the next 15 years.
That's right. How about a dated 80s TV reference for you? Spencer for Hire, starring in Detroit this year. That's terrible.
You have got to be kidding me.
I know.
I'm trying to think of something better. Mark, you got anything better?
Gotta be something.
I can't possibly follow.
Matt Orzo is in today for Keith Costas, and I'm kind of sabotaging Matt, so don't put the camera on him quite yet. Maybe too late. Let's give you a chance to look at the betting markets. Who is the shorter shot, Matt, to win Rookie of the Year in the American League? Because these two guys are probably at or near the very top of that board. I'm curious about that. I think Witt would be the guy. If I had to back one, it's Witt. I mean, we're talking about potentially generational talent here.
Yeah.
What about you, Mark? Which one do you back in a Rookie of the Year?
Probably Witt. I think he'll have more of an impact defensively, which will help his cause. And maybe, the Tigers are expecting to contend. So maybe if Torkelson helps lift them to a playoff spot, that could work in his favor. But I'd probably go Witt by a hair.
What are the numbers, Matty?
So according to Vegas Insider, Bobby Witt plus 310 right now for AL Rookie of the Year, followed by Spencer Torkelson plus 650, Adley Rutschman plus 600, and Julio Rodriguez plus 600.
Wow. Okay. Well, speaking of young players, I'm pretty sure he's not on this board yet, but there's another Guerrero in the lineage.
Oh, he's been tearing it
right? Another scion of greatness. This is Pedro Guerrero. This is Vlad's youngest, I believe.
Yeah.
And he's 10 years old, and he's already going opposite field. So get ready in another, I don't know, what do you think? He'll be ready in, what, 2.5 years to be in the big league?
That's why we're looking at the international draft, because they'd be signing him right now.
I mean, you're only kind of kidding about that.
That's the truth.
Mark, thank you. Let's take a break. When we come back, spring training highlights as the Cactus and Grapefruit Leagues have wound down. Teams are in big league stadiums, and we're getting you set for opening day on Thursday. It's getting close.
Wow, how great is that?
Smell it. It's getting so close.
Nobody go in the bathroom for about 35 minutes.